the Midwest at the hands of white nationalists.
He's part of the problem.
And I say we won't keep Portland safe by eroding freedom of speech and assembly. This is a message not just to bullies, but to all Portlanders. Let's be clear, today is not about a crackdown, but a rise up. I am not here to blame city leaders or law enforcement. I am here to hold a mirror to the face of Portland, Oregon. It is time for us to stand up and support our leadership. We are facing a political crisis, and it is ineffective and unwise to place the entire burden on city leadership and law enforcement to find a solution. There is no place for violence and intimidation in the streets, but we'll only keep Portland truly safe when our city leaders are able to stand next to community, business, and religious leaders, using the power of their office, but using our moral power to denounce bigotry and violence. Let's be clear today. We will only truly be safe when good speech drowns out bad. So I stand here today to thank our city leaders for what they've done and to call on them to do far more. When I was a young kid, poor, without much to do before school started, we used to play a game called If I Were. And If I Were went like this. If I found myself in a lion's cage and the lion came in, here's what I would do. And as kids, we would argue about what we would or wouldn't do. Inevitably, a question would come up. If I were in the midst of the civil rights movement of the 1960s, here's what I would do. Now, we were kids. We didn't understand the choiceless choices of our elders and the society that they lived in. I've always wondered, what would I have really done in the midst of the civil rights movement? You may have wondered as well. But I'm here to tell you now, Portland, we no longer have to wonder. The truth is, whatever it is we would have done in the midst of the 1960s civil rights movement will be whatever it is we do when we walk away from this square today. Make it count, Portland. This is your city too.
Good morning. My name is Casey Chama. I am the Executive Director of Unite Oregon. I'm here today to send a clear message that the white supremacists, those who are spouting hate and violence, are not welcome in our city. I came to this city, beautiful city, 20 years ago, seeking for refuge. When I left in my home country, I left because I want to live a place where people can express their viewpoints peacefully. So I cherish that in this country for our freedom of speech. But in this country now today, we're at a crossroads. And we have to speak the truth and lay out what the problem is and share the issue itself. I am mid-40s, former refugee, and today I don't want to mess with words. I want to speak from my heart. Let me speak first to our law enforcement community. Our community, our city of Portlanders, are frustrated, and they want a resolution, and when they want action. This is not a blame, but this is an ask from our law enforcement agencies. There is no neutral ground. We have to point out that the problem is white supremacy. That is the problem we're dealing with. And let me tell you this. As much as I disagree with their tactics, some of us are equating Antifa and white supremacists, Proud Boys, 3%ers, and other militia movement. Again, as I said, I do not agree in Antifa's tactics.
Thank you.
But we have to say this. They are not equal to Proud Boys and 3%ers. These are well-trained armed militia.
No, they are. That's a lie.
And we have to deal with it.
That's not true. That's a lie.
Let me ask our leaders, city commissioners and mayor. This country, this community want a moral clarity. When we don't have a moral clarity, we cannot address the problem. We ask you to have a moral clarity by acknowledging the problem we are dealing with is white supremacy and well-armed militia.
No, you aren't. That's not the problem. It's hate for Trump. You hate Trump supporters. You try to kill them.
Finally, let me speak to Portlanders today. The only way to defeat hate and bigotry is to love one another,
Yes. That's all.
to show compassion, to stand up with each other, to tell white supremacists you are not welcome our city.
But they live here. They're anti-
Saturday, August 17, if you are planning to come to protest against white supremacy, bring a picture, somebody who inspires you to be a non-violent activist.
Okay. Hopefully people will know that.
Finally, our city needs to be an incubator of love, compassion, creativity, not white supremacy and racism and bigotry. Thank you very much. Let me introduce the next speaker, Rabbi Deborah Coloni from Portland United Against Hate.
It's my honor today to represent PUA, a coalition of 30 community organizations. We're living in a time when violent fascists are emboldened by our federal administration to spew hate and use weapons to kill, maim, and threaten immigrants, Black, brown, Asian, Native, Jewish, Muslim, LGBTQI+ people, and people with
That's
disabilities.
a lie. That's hate speech.
We must not forget that fascist rallies like the ones scheduled for August 17th
No one's a
are
fascist.
interconnected with recent domestic terrorist
No one is a
attacks
fascist.
committed by white men on communities of color and religious minorities.
That's not true.
These fascists, white nationalists, have sponsored monthly hate rallies in Portland during the summer since 2017,
They're not even white.
under the guise of exercising their free speech and assembly rights.
They're not white.
They gather while openly carrying weapons and announcing on social media their intention to physically harm all who disagree with them.
That's Antifa!
People may have the right to free speech, but the incitement of violence, especially with the history of making good on violent threats, is not protected.
Well, no one in our side has been violent.
Creating false equivalencies between violent white nationalists and those willing to defend our city against their violence is unacceptable. Pandering to a national climate that accuses Portland of being soft on Antifa is unacceptable. There is no equivalence between racist, anti-Semitic, Islamophobic, homophobic violence and those who say no to it. Antifa must not be scapegoated. We are in truth a city that is anti-fascist.
So you agree to damaging property and hurting people then, right? Because that's what Antifa
When
does.
Mayor Ted Wheeler said last week that the crisis is not about ideology, I want to respectfully respond that that language does not move us closer to safety or justice, because in fact, violent, hateful, fascist ideology is the problem.
That's Antifa.
A military-level response from the police that puts all of our residents at risk is not the answer. We are heartened by the call to create a community coalition to address violent hate at its source, because countless strategies are needed to be deployed to move upstream and find solutions and not rely on state-sponsored police repression. PUA calls on the city, the region, and the state to find those solutions, acknowledge the root cause of the problem is fascism and white nationalism. Speeches and resolutions that are short-lived will not be the answer. We need concrete, long-term strategic solutions that uproot the cause of hate. We want to see policies with long-term financial investments in dismantling the machinery of hate and white supremacy. In order to end systemic hate, we need systemic interventions. At PUA, we say, hate is not welcome in Portland. White nationalism is not welcome in Portland.
Should Terry Bean not be
Period.
either? A pedophile that you take money from?
Yeah, Terry Bean, pedophile. Is he not welcome? You guys took money.
I am honored to welcome Felissa Hagens from SEIU Local 49 to speak with you.
This man takes money from pedophiles.
Hello, my name is Felissa Hagens. I'm the political director at SEIU Local 49.
I don't want to stand between you.
Thank you. And I'm actually here today with our 15% of Oregonians who are a family united in labor solidarity. So thank you so much for being behind me today and being against racism, hate, and fascism. Workers who come together, whether white, black, brown, are united in solidarity to improve their lives and working conditions and the lives and working conditions of every Oregonian. And that means standing together, united against hate, whether grown in Oregon or from afar. We will not tolerate fascism and racism in our city. I want to thank the workers who are immigrant workers, who are in our communities every day, working hard, taking a risk, standing up and going to work every day with their children in our communities. And we've seen recently in Mississippi the actions that have happened targeting these workers in these communities. If we believe these actions are separate than the actions in El Paso, we are fooling ourselves. And I want to thank our mayor and city leadership for standing up, and our governor, Kate Brown, for standing up against fascism and making Oregon a sanctuary state. That should send a clear message to everyone is welcome here. They're welcome in our unions, in our families, and in our city. Thank you.
Yeah, but when
Enforcing laws is fascism?
and when Donald Trump was talking about sending illegal immigrants here, they threatened to sue.
We're anti-communists.
Right.
Why are you not realizing this?
We've never said anything.
I just want to say good morning, everybody. It's great to be here. And I want to say first and foremost, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for bringing us all together. This is what leadership looks like. When you called, everybody here answered, and we're all here to say one simple message. We're here to say no to hate. We're here to say no to racism. We're here to say no to shenanigans. We don't want it in our community. The business community doesn't want it, and we're sick of it. Bottom line. I'm proud to be here with the Portland Business Alliance.